corruption of California today with a terrible homeless situation, ridiculous cost of living, the place being so blue and democratic with people that don't know anything about anything when it comes to their rights and their laws, and it just seems like they are all sheeple and that they are okay with whatever they are doing to the state. Like, all around San Francisco has a terrible homeless situation, people on the streets doing fentanyl and other drugs that can kill them, people dying on the streets all the time, seeing all these buildings being crumbled with cardboard and wooden pallets on their windows and front doors, looking like it was broken into all the time. Everywhere you go in the city, you're just seeing crumbled infrastructure. You're seeing a terrible homeless situation with people sleeping in tents for about a mile or so. You'll see poop, fecal matter, and urine all around the city. Even in the alleyways, you get a strong smell of piss, and you'll see a pile of shit on the ground. And it really brings a tear to my eye seeing that, because I remember 28 years ago when I was a very little kid at the time, it was such an amazing city. It was like the city of the future. You had the convenience of being on top of Marion County, like big houses with the view of the bay and the other mountains around it to get away from the city. And you could take a bus or drive or figure out a way to get to the city. And if you want to live in the city, you can get all these views and everything in between. And to see it starting to look like a third world country is just one of the most depressing things I have ever seen. Like, when I went back in 2019, I got a little excited. I started doing some research of it online, and all I see is a beautiful city. Very beautiful city with the old historic buildings, the sun reflecting over it, the wide open spaces with the hills, the view of the water all around you, with the mountains about as far as to San Jose, and being up these really steep hills, and the architecture and the culture and the history. And to know that this is a democratic state and super liberal, the pieces kind of didn't make sense to me, but I had nothing to lose, and when I went there, it was starting to die out. Like, it wasn't quite empty, and it wasn't quite full as I expected to be for one of the most iconic places in the world. Like, there was still people and things happening, but it just didn't feel amazing and have that vibe like it used to, like you see on Full House and other movies and TV shows and all these stories we hear about San Francisco and it being so amazing. But then I see the harsh reality of it even back in 2019, where I saw a terrible homeless situation in some parts of it, and this to me is just, I don't get it. I don't get why that's what I see. But then I look back at when I lived there in my childhood in Bakersfield, and I can assure you it was no accident. Because I remember we were originally living in Florida before that. Then we went to California, and I was also born in Hawaii. So I lived from state to state, and I noticed this about California. When I was being the super rad Californian that I see on Rocket Power and other TV shows and stories about it, and all these kids being innovative and creative and just being different, you know, just like California awesome. They will say things, they did the classic thing that I hear now, that I hear on like schools and stuff, like you have ADHD and that you need medication, something's severely wrong with you, and they put all this shit into your body and give you blood tests. And that's the thing about California. It was the only state that did that. It's as if they signal and detect people who think outside the box, and anyone who can think, they do what they can to make sure they don't think. Just like the Rockefeller system. And it was really strong in California. Like, when I went to Maine, after we left in 2005, nothing. was nothing wrong. Like, everything was so laid back, and I was taught my American rights and my freedoms. Like, I went to American citizenship in my high school years, where I was learning the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, economics, the amendments, filing lawsuits, all that stuff. I was basically taught my American rights, amendments, how to handle traffic stops, the Constitution, the Great Depression, and all the things that we need to know about our rights. And it shocks me to hell to how many people in California that I meet that don't know their rights. Like, when you talk about rights and the amendments in the Constitution, they give you a blank stare, or they start making fun of you and mocking you like a sheep, as if they don't know what they are. And you see that in third world countries. Like, the people there are brainwashed, and they're sick, they're demented, they have an attitude, a condescending vibe. And when I saw and heard everything and all these stories about San Francisco like 30 years ago, it was amazing. And it had the characters and vibe like Full House and so many other movies and books and songs that take place there, and all the history of it. The Bay Area, the wide open spaces, the views of the sunset and the Golden Gate Bridge. And then I see the reality of California today. Like, even San Diego, when I lived there in 2019, it was catching up. And San Diego is the most laid-back, conservative, red, and had a vibe out of everywhere in California. And it made me sad to see that just the whole state was becoming a third world country. And the taxes there are the worst. Like, I still owe like $11,000 in taxes from when I did Instacart deliveries there, making $40,000 a year, not including the tips. Like, the taxes are fucking outrageous. The taxes to gas has always increased. The taxes to everything in general just increases. They add all these new taxes to this and a nickel and dime to fucking that. But yet I hear all the time that California is one of the only places in the world with this landscape and that, and the amazing weather, the amazing history, and it's the 5th largest economy in the world. 5th largest economy in the world. And this state's got no fucking money. Like, I remember in 2011, they were closing down schools, after-school programs, bus transportation, government facilities in the cities. I mean, really, how is it that this state has no money for anything? And everything costs so damn much. And there's all these rules and regulations and police surveillance and people going to jail for stupid shit. Like, and the homelessness. Businesses and people were leaving because of it. It's just, how is it that such an amazing city went from what I hear stories about it to what I see today? Like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't get why this is what I see. But then I look back at the times when I was told they had the ADHD nonsense and medicated. It's like none of this happened by accident. I mean, is it constitutional to medicate anyone? Is it constitutional to drug people into making them do what they want you to do? Is it constitutional to be taxed on every goddamn thing we do and spend? Is it constitutional to see homeless people on the streets doing drugs and fentanyl dying? Is it constitutional for what the police do to the people on the streets and all these rules we have? Like, California, it feels anything but America right now. And there's just no way it was an accident. And now they have all these people that are brainwashed into voting Democrat and believing in liberals and the communist nonsense. They will leave the state, and then they will go there and say, oh yeah, Democrats destroyed our state, but every election year or election time, they vote Democrat wherever they fucking go. Like, literally, they say, oh, we hated Democrats and that it's a shitty state and California's destroyed or whatever. But then they keep voting Democrat and the same type of people that caused California to be that way. And now they're spreading it to the entire country. Like, they flock Cincinnati, my current hometown. They flock Florida. They flock everywhere, outbidding home prices, raising home prices. And then they vote Democrat. And then they have that governance brought here.